Today we are going to discuss about Melchizedek, a figure that we can find in Genesis chapter 14, Psalm 110, and Hebrews 5, 6, and 7. So we'll start with Genesis chapter 14, verse 18 and 19. It says, Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was the priest of God Most High. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abraham of God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand, and he gave him a tithe of all. Now let's take a look at the significance of his name. Significance of his name: Melchizedek. Melech means king of. Zedek means righteousness. So his name was King of Righteousness, Melchizedek, Melchizedek. And let's take note that Melchizedek was king of Salem. Salem is a name that is uprooted from our own word that we use, shalom, which means peace. So Melchizedek was a king of peace, like where we get our name Jerusalem. And who was Melchizedek? What was his significance? Was it a theophany? Was Melchizedek a pre-incarnation of Christ? Let's take a look at that. Let's go to Psalm chapter 110. Psalm chapter 110 verse 4. It says, The Lord has sworn and will not relent. You are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek. Now this is King David. He's saying the Lord has sworn and will not relent. And you are a priest after the order of Melchizedek. And even Hebrews refers to Melchizedek. The author of Hebrew was referring to Melchizedek as a figure that you find in Genesis. Now let's take a look at Hebrews chapter 7 verse 11. And to answer the question, was it a theophany or was it a pre-incarnation, or what other people can call a Christophany of Melchizedek? He was a Christ in human form, and the answer actually is no, as many people think that Melchizedek was Christ in human form. Let's take a look at, we'll just take a look at verse 11 of Hebrews chapter 7, verse 11. It says, Therefore, if perfection were through the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law, what further need was there that another priest should rise according to the order of Melchizedek, and not be according to the order of Aaron? Melchizedek, it was a term that we can say it was used for priest, for a priest was according to the order of Melchizedek. Though he was Melchizedek, but it was a lineage of priests. So let's take a look when the author of Hebrews say that Melchizedek was without a father, without mother, without lineage, without anyone. It simply means that in the book of Genesis, which is a genealogical book, Melchizedek did not have any genealogy in the book of Genesis. Whereby, let's take an example. If you take a look at Abraham, you can see Abraham begot Isaac and Jacob and so and so and so. The list goes like that. That's the lineage that we're saying. But on Melchizedek, there is no lineage. That's what the author of Hebrew was trying to say. Now the author of Hebrew on verse 11, he is saying, not after the order or the order of the Levitical priesthood. They were Levites, and Levites were there after Melchizedek was there. So Melchizedek was there as the first priest, even before the Levitical priesthood. And David is saying, you are a priest after the order of Melchizedek, not after the priests of Levitical. Why? Because here in verse 11 it's saying, what further need was there that another priest should rise according to the order of Melchizedek, and not according to the order of Aaron? So there was supposed to be another priest according to the order of Melchizedek, not according to the order of Aaron. Why? Because the Bible is telling us, if you read Hebrews, we don't have time to read the whole chapter of chapter 7. It's telling us now that the order of Melchizedek, it was not anointed by a human hand. While in the Levitical priesthood, you could be a priest because you are a descendant of Aaron and Levi and so on. But on the Melchizedek priesthood, you will be a Melchizedek priest after the order of Melchizedek, because God himself has anointed you, not a human hand. Also, let's take a look at verse 15 of Hebrews chapter 7. It says, And it is yet far more evident, if in the likeness of Melchizedek there arises another priest. Let's take a look at the word in the likeness. in the likeness of Melchizedek. It was simple for the author of Hebrew could have said, in the likeness or in the order of Christ. Why is he saying in the likeness of Melchizedek? Meaning not Melchizedek, but in the likeness of the priesthood of Melchizedek. So what the author of Hebrew was trying to say, he was trying to take people 2000 or 2000 and so years before when Melchizedek lived and tell them that in the likeness of Melchizedek, then Christ was fulfilled. Let's take a look that Melchizedek was a king and a priest. That's where it tells us that Melchizedek was one like Christ. He was representing a priesthood of the order of Christ, in a sense that he was a king and a priest. In the Levitical priesthood, you were only a priest. That's where Melchizedek was in the likeness of Christ. Christ is a king, and Hebrews tells us that Christ also is our high priest in heaven. So Christ was after the order of Melchizedek, not after the order of Levitical order. Let's take a look at that also. It says that in verse 21, chapter 7, verse 21, for they have become priests without an oath, but he with an oath by him who said to him, the Lord has sworn and will not relent. You are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. You see, the priesthood of Melchizedek is not about the person who Abraham saw. It is about the order of the priesthood. Melchizedek, the name is being referred, but it is about the order of the priesthood, which the author of Hebrew is emphasizing more on, telling people about the order of Melchizedek. If you read also, the archaeology can support that Melchizedek was a real figure that lived during those years, during when our patriarch Abraham was still alive. He was a real figure, and archaeology has proved that at Ugadi, when they excavated some stones that can tell us that even in Canaan, where there was the city, even in Canaan, where Melchizedek, the priest from Genesis chapter 14, was coming from, they worshipped the true God. It is true from archaeology. Archaeology is supporting Bible. So it is true that Melchizedek was a person who was living, and he was a king and he was a priest in the Canaanite side after the order of Melchizedek, not after the order of Levi. Thank you guys. See you again.